Hi. I must begin by thanking the three men who all sent me messages this morning that inspire me to finally begin my next series, Beyond Theism and On with Evolution. The first word I heard was from Tim, then Juan, and then Dave, so thank you, brothers, for thinking of me. Now, theism is the belief in the existence of a god or gods, specifically a belief in the existence of one God viewed as the creative source of the human race and the world, who transcends yet is immanent. Clifford Stanley was an Episcopal priest and professor of theology who is famous for saying, "Any god who can be killed ought to be killed." On a totally different topic, what Tim wrote this morning was, quote, "Part of what is taking place is a simple realization of the power of creation that exists within." Now, I'm a Christian anarchist Buddhist with a dose of dervish, but my roots are very deep in the Roman and Anglican traditions. Bishop John Shelley Spong has always been way ahead of the masses, and in 1998 he wrote the book, Why Christianity Must Change or Die. A Bishop Speaks to Believers in Exile. It took him 20 years to write this book about his desire to worship that mystery we call God as a citizen of the modern world who thinks. God gave us a brain that we should use it. One who did was Paul Tillich, a refugee from Nazi Germany, a Christian existentialist and American theologian. Tillich philosophized that the existential questions of human existence centered on ontology, the study of the nature of being, existence, and reality in general. Before Tillich died in 1965, he proposed a 100-year moratorium on the word God because it had become so corrupted. I propose the word could be pure being. Now, Jesus Christ is also called the Prince of Peace, and his last words to the community before his crucifixion, which was, by the way, the Roman occupying forces' standard method of capital punishment, he instructed his followers to put down the sword. Among the last words he uttered as he hung on the cross was, "Father, forgive them, they know not what they are doing." And not much has changed in 2,000 years. The Prince of Peace also said he came that we would have life to the full, abundant life, and that takes deep thought and then action. 2,000 years ago, there was lively debate about whom this Christ was, and I also call him the very first wide-awake man. It was not until the church got in bed with Emperor Constantine that the hotbeds of individuality that they had been began to become institutions, and today they are big business. In 1994, Spong wrote Resurrection or Myth, which faced the fact that viewing the resurrection of the Prince of Peace as physical was a late developing tradition in Christianity. And by the way, Christianity was called the Way until the days of Paul in the 3rd decade, meaning the way he taught. Not Paul, but Jesus, Prince of Peace. Paul, as well as the gospel writers of Mark and Matthew, made no such claim that the burst of life, light, and energy that accompanied the birth of Christianity was dependent on the thought, orthodox theology, a physical resurrection, or any dogma. In 1996, Spong wrote Liberating the Gospels, which contended that the writers of the Synoptic Gospels, Luke, Matthew, and Mark, were not eyewitnesses to the life and death of the Prince of Peace, and these Gospels, meaning good news, were not even based on eyewitness memories. Instead, They were liturgical works organized around the Jewish liturgical year and were not to be taken literally, but probed within the Jewish context. The Prince of Peace, Jesus, was never a Christian, but a social justice, radical, revolutionary, nonviolent, Palestinian, devout Jewish road warrior who rose up and challenged the job security of the temple authorities by teaching the people they did not need to pay the priests for ritual baths or sacrificing livestock to be okay with God, for God already loved them just as they were. Poor, diseased, outcast widows, orphans, refugees, and prisoners enduring under Roman military occupation. What got the Prince of Peace crucified was disturbing the status quo of the Roman occupying forces by teaching such concepts as God, pure being, preferred the humble, the poor, diseased, outcast widows, orphans, refugees, and prisoners living under a brutal military occupation above the powerful, elite, and arrogant. Spong wrote, "There is no hope for the revival of worship as long as an idol lives undisturbed in the place preserved for a living God. No religion owns God, pure being, and no church owns the Prince of Peace. Any God, church, or religion that is so threatened by new truth is already dead." Tom Paine said, "Reputation is what men and women think of us. Character is what God and the angels know of us." Mother Teresa said she was just a little pencil in the hand of a writing God who was sending a love letter to the world. In this ongoing series, I hope to be a little pencil too, and hope has two children. The first is anger at the way things are, and the second is courage to do something about it. But Christ, you know it ain't easy. You know how hard it can be, and the way things are going, they're probably going to crucify me, but so be it. Learn lots more at wearewideawake.org, May 29, 2010, Beyond Theism and On with Evolution, and at the Greater Awakening link, Power to the Peaceful, On with Evolution and a Revolution of Love.